Most of the immigrants who came through Ellis Island were from Eastern and Southern Europe. In most cases, they came to escape the poverty and religious intolerance that existed in small towns. When the immigrants arrived at the seaport, they boarded a steamship that would take a trip across the Atlantic that lasted 1 to 2 weeks. The passengers were divided by wealth and class. Most were third-class passengers who stayed in an open space at the bottom of the ship.
When they arrived, one of the first things they saw was the Statue of Liberty. People would cheer when they saw this famous symbol of America. Health officers would board the ship in the harbor and look for signs of diseases. If the ship passed inspection, first and second class would get their health checked. Once they were checked, they could leave the ship when it docked at New York City. Third class would often wait for hours or days until a smaller ferry boat took them to Ellis Island. Next came the baggage room. Wearing their numbered tags, the immigrants entered the baggage room on the building's ground floor. They left their precious belongings here until their inspections were done. Next, the immigrants went up the stairs to the registry room. That is where the medical and legal inspections took place. Immigration process began on the winding stairs that led to the registry room. Doctors stood on the second floor and watched each person. They looked for people who had trouble walking or breathing and showed signs of other health problems. The waiting area in the registry room had long metal rails that helped maintain an orderly line as people went through the medical and legal inspections. Officials in the registry room decided whether each person could enter the country right away or whether that person's case required further review.
The first test in the medical exam was a 6-second physical. A doctor looked for any signs of illness or contagious diseases. If someone was considered a risk to the public health, his or her clothes were marked by a piece of chalk with an identifying letter. Immigrants who were marked were taken out of the line and kept for further examination. Immigrants who passed the 6-second exam continued through the maze of metal rails toward the far end of the hall for the legal inspection. Each ship that arrived at Ellis Island had a manifest list, which was a list that had the name and description of each passenger. Every passenger was called forward to speak with a uniformed inspector. They were all asked 29 questions such as, "Where were you born?" or "Have you ever been convicted of a crime?" If their answers differed from the answers listed on the manifest list, they could be detained. Legal detainees lived in a dormitory room on the 3rd floor. They would wait a few days or even a month until their case was reviewed in the hearing room. People who were detained for medical reasons were cared for at the island's hospital or kept in quarantine. A board of special inquiry would eventually review the immigrant's report and decide whether to allow him into the U.S. or to send him back. After the medical and legal inspections, the immigrants arrived at the top of another staircase at the other end of the Great Hall. This staircase had 3 aisles. Immigrants who were being detained were often brought down from the center aisle. People traveling west or south walked down the right side of the staircase. Those going to New York City or to the north walked down the left side.
An area on the first floor of the building became known as the Kissing Post. It got that nickname because it was where family and friends waited for their loved ones. After months or years apart, they kissed and hugged and shouted with joy and relief. For the immigrants, the long journey was finally over. They were in America.